What's going on, guys? It's Frager here again, and today I'm going to be making 3 different size castles. So I actually got this idea when one of my Discord members suggested that I build a one-chunk castle for my Building Your Ideas in Minecraft video. And I thought that was a really good idea, and I wanted to build off of that idea even more, so I decided why don't I make 3 different size castles, one of them being a 1-chunk castle, another one being a 4-chunk castle, and the last one being a 9-chunk castle. So that is what we're going to be doing today. But before we get into that, if you do enjoy this type of content and you want to see more of this in the future, then make sure to hit that like and subscribe button down below if you have not already. And if you guys want to interact with me or my community outside of YouTube, then make sure to join my Discord server linked down in the description. But anyway, without further ado, let's get right into this video. So we are starting this one off, of course, with the 1-chunk castle. And for this one, I went with my diorite build style, and I pretty much wanted this one to be a smaller scale, sort of shrunken version of what my castles normally look like, and I think it turned out pretty good. It pretty much just ended up being the throne room with a few towers scattered throughout it, so it is pretty basic compared to what my castles normally look like, but I think that's okay. And to finish off this 1-chunk castle, to fill it out a little bit more, I filled it in with a bunch of flowers and shrubbery. So that is the 1-chunk castle completely finished, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I think I probably could have done a better job, especially given more space, so why don't we see what I can do with 4 chunks. So for this 4-chunk castle, I am using the same build palette as I was for the first one, and I wanted this one to be a different layout from the previous castle. That way it's not just like every single castle I make here is just a bigger version of the previous one. I'm not 100% happy with how this castle turned out. I think it's not really filled out enough, and I probably should have added in a few extra buildings. I did want this one to have a pretty large outdoor area, that way it wasn't like the entire castle was just one big building, but I think there is too much of this outdoor area and it's way too open, and I'm not super happy about that. I also wanted this one to have a lot of height variation to make it look a little bit more unique and a little bit better, and I am actually pretty happy with how this height variation turned out. I think it's enough to make this castle look that much better, and it kind of makes up for the lack of buildings on this one. I also wanted to make these towers look a bit bigger, more filled out, and just more detailed in general, and I think I did a pretty good job of doing that. But there was still a little bit of dead space outside of this castle, so I decided to fill that in by putting in a rocky base around this castle. And that is it for this 4-chunk castle. I think this one looks much better than the first one, but I did struggle with filling this one out, so because of that, I'm not 100% happy with this one. So let's see if I can do a much better job with 9 chunks. So for this 9-chunk castle, I set out with the goal of making this one a lot more filled out than the second one. And I think I did a pretty good job with that by adding in a few extra buildings and also making the throne room much bigger. I wanted the towers on this one to be a little bit bigger and more filled out, and I did decide to add a giant tower to one of the corners of the throne room, and I think that tower turned out amazing, but the rest of the towers are just kind of the same as the second castle, and they're not really as filled out or detailed as I would have liked. I also wasn't completely happy with the fact that this castle is actually very similar to the layout of the second one. I did want to make a unique layout for each one of these castles, and I think this third one is just too similar to the second castle for my liking. I do really like the height variation that I added to this one though, and just like the second one, I think it makes this one look that much better. I also wanted to add a walkway connecting one of the towers to the throne room, and I'm not completely happy with how this one turned out. I think the tower was just a little bit too short to do this with, and because of that, it just looks really awkward and doesn't really look that good. But all of that aside, I'm actually pretty happy with how this castle turned out. And that is going to be it for this 9-chunk castle. So that is all 3 castles built up, and I'm pretty happy with how these all turned out. I think I definitely probably could have done a better job with the second 2, but the first one I was just so limited on space, I think that was probably the best I could have done with it. I think for the second 2 castles I was just lacking a lot of detail and they weren't really filled out as much as they should have been, but all things considered I think they turned out pretty good. But that is going to be it for this video. Of course, if you did enjoy this video, do not forget to hit that like and subscribe button down below if you haven't already, and don't forget to join my Discord server if you want to interact with me or my community outside of YouTube. But anyway, that's all I have for today, so as always, don't forget to keep building.